In this video, we explore the significant Ukrainian advance in Russia's Kursk region. How did Ukraine manage to progress so much in such a short time? President Zelensky was informed by General Oleksandr Syrsky that his forces now control approximately 1,000 square kilometers of Russian territory in the Kursk area. Moreover, on Monday, August 12th, during a live broadcast conference, Alexei Smirnov, the governor of Kursk, confirmed to Vladimir Putin that Ukraine now dominates 28 Russian localities and that 121,000 Russians have been evacuated from their homes. This Ukrainian advance, achieved in just 6 days, raises crucial questions. How was it possible to advance so much? And how far can this advance go? The first key factor was, undoubtedly, the element of surprise. Neither Russia nor any other country expected an invasion of Kursk with such intensity and speed. Initially, when Ukrainian vehicles and armored units were spotted in Kursk, it was believed to be a quick incursion led by anti-Putin groups, similar to what happened in Bryansk and Belgorod between 2023 and 2024. However, as the days passed, it became clear that the Ukrainian force in Kursk was much larger, consisting of regular units, signaling a coordinated invasion operation, not just a simple incursion by Russian dissidents. Another factor that contributed to the Ukrainian advance was the nature of the Russian troops sent to contain this invasion. In videos from the region, you can see hundreds of Russian soldiers being captured, many of them inexperienced, with some admitting they were pulled from training centers before completing their formation. Thus, the combination of the surprise element with poorly trained and unprepared Russian troops explains the rapid and strong Ukrainian advance in Kursk. This also reveals a weakness in Putin's reserve forces, as he had to resort to inexperienced soldiers still in training to try to contain the Ukrainian offensive. This confirms a long-standing suspicion that Putin has already committed a large part of his armed forces to Ukraine, leaving the interior of Russia with few defenses, insufficient even to contain the invasion of Kursk. However, the strategic objective of this invasion remains a mystery. Zelensky only stated that the mission is to eliminate the bases from which the Russians launch attacks against Ukraine. It is still uncertain how far this advance can go, as it will depend on several factors, some of which are beyond Ukraine's control. For example, the Russian response. If Putin continues to send second- or third-line troops, lacking experience and complete training, Ukraine may continue advancing or consolidate its positions. On the other hand, if Putin decides to weaken other sectors of his invasion and send elite troops to Kursk, well-equipped and experienced, the Ukrainian invasion could end quickly. Even so, Ukraine would achieve what it seeks: to weaken the Russian invasion forces, facilitating offensive actions in other weakened sectors. The Ukrainian invasion of Kursk is also a direct affront to Putin, marking the first time Russia has been invaded since World War II, and the first time in history that a nuclear power faces such a situation. All this certainly infuriates Putin, giving Ukraine another victory, destabilizing, albeit momentarily, the Russian leadership. Although Ukraine does not have the capacity to indefinitely control territories within Russia, it is clear that when they are expelled from Kursk, they will have already achieved their goal: weakening Russian forces, destabilizing Putin's leadership, and demonstrating to the world and to internal Kremlin critics that the Russian leader is leading the country into an increasingly costly, complex, and uncertain conflict. Meanwhile, Russia has begun redirecting its troops in Ukraine to repel the Ukrainian invasion on its territory. This strategic movement, reported by Ukrainian and US sources on Tuesday, is the latest in a series of Moscow's responses to the military operation on its borders. The neighboring Belgorod region, next to Kursk, declared a state of emergency on Wednesday due to the intensified shelling and the impacts of the invasion. While American and Ukrainian officials analyze the impact of this troop movement, it is still too early to say whether Russian actions will succeed in halting the Ukrainian offensive. The Russian army seems to be sending reinforcements from less prepared units while avoiding pulling troops from the front lines in Donetsk to avoid compromising their advances in Ukraine. The Ukrainian incursion has already forced the evacuation of more than 120,000 people, with at least 12 civilians killed and over 100 injured. For Kiev's forces, this operation is a morale boost after months of defensive actions, providing an opportunity to turn the tide against a numerous and well-armed enemy. According to information from the New York Times, Moscow has started to withdraw some of its troops from Ukraine in an effort to counter Kiev's offensive in western Russia. However, U.S. and Ukrainian officials are still unable to determine the overall impact of this move on the battlefield. On Tuesday, Dmytro Likovyi, a spokesperson for the Ukrainian army, informed local media that Russia had transferred some units from the Ukrainian regions of Zaporizhia and Dnipro to other combat areas. Among these areas was the Kursk region in western Russia, where an incursion took place, he explained. A U.S. official, who requested anonymity due to the sensitivity of security issues, confirmed that Russia had withdrawn a small number of troops from Ukraine but did not provide details on specific locations or the exact number of soldiers involved. Experts believe that one of the objectives of the Ukrainian offensive is to divert Russian forces from the front lines in Ukraine, thereby easing pressure on Ukrainian troops who are facing relentless attacks. However, it is too early to say if the recent movement of Russian troops will achieve this. In particular, there is little evidence that Moscow has redeployed troops from eastern Ukraine, where Russian advances have been consistent in recent months. Instead, it appears that the Russian army has moved reinforcements, primarily from less combat-ready units located in northern Russia and Ukraine, according to military experts. Serhiy Kuzan, president of the Ukrainian Security and Cooperation Center, an independent research group, stated, "The Russian strategy is to avoid withdrawing units from the Donetsk direction as much as possible," referring to the region in eastern Ukraine that is on the front lines of the conflict. The Russians are reluctant to do this as it would jeopardize the gains made during their summer offensive campaign. On Tuesday, Lithuanian Defense Minister Laurynas Kasčiūnas revealed that Russia was moving troops from its Baltic enclave of Kaliningrad to the Kursk region. Kasčiūnas made this statement during a visit to President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev. Despite the new Ukrainian offensive, Russian forces continue to strike the Donetsk region without interruption. In recent weeks, Russian troops have been advancing, albeit slowly, toward the cities of Chasiv Yar, New York, Pokrovsk, and Toretsk. Oleksandr Bordyan, a spokesperson for the 32nd Separate Mechanized Brigade fighting near Toretsk, said on Tuesday that Ukrainian attacks in the Kursk region have yet to impact the intensity of attacks and shelling in our direction. A medic from another brigade in the same area also reported on Wednesday that there had been no changes on the front line. Military analysts point out that Kiev will need to expand or maintain its positions in western Russia long enough to force Moscow to divert a significant number of troops from the battlefield in Ukraine. Emil Kastahelmi, an analyst with the Blackbird Group, a Finnish company specializing in battle image analysis, commented on Tuesday night that a Ukrainian attack in Giri, a village southeast of the initial attack and about 8 miles from the Ukrainian border, was likely repelled. Ukrainian forces suffered significant losses and probably had to retreat, he said. If you enjoyed this video and want to continue following the developments in the Ukraine war and other impactful military stories, don't miss our other videos on the channel. Subscribe and hit the bell to not miss any exclusive content.